So the last question we've got here is one for, I guess, for those prospective applicants, people out there who have like some concerns about Cambridge, and with fitting in, like to anyone who thinks, well, what would you say to anyone who thinks that Cambridge is just a place for like a white middle class, like upper middle class individual, and they think it's like a place for posh people? Like, what would you say to them?
So obviously, I'm not going to speak on someone else's experience, but I can speak to what I've been told by student ambassadors, because I appreciate that for me, you know, maybe I'm sort of closer to that box, basically. But I think that the first issue is, you know, we cannot change the history of the institution and the fact that for a long time it was that way. But I do think that significant progress is being made towards basically a more equal and more representative cohort in the undergrad community. I think we see that year on year, statistically speaking. I think, again, as well, it is, you know, not to reduce our responsibility, it is a higher education issue as well. You know, I think certain institutions have a similar problem, and it's something that we all need to work on. I think that more and more there are actively being spaces made for students so that everyone feels that they when they're here have somewhere that is for them, and that they are like represented within a student body. I hear from student ambassadors that it's not, that their experience of it is much more positive than that, and that it's not over time it has improved, and even since 2019 when I joined, I really feel there is a significant difference, and that actually Cambridge as a city itself is much more diverse than it once was, and that it's much more kind of representative of the entirety of the British population. But I understand the concern, and I don't want to sort of diminish people's worries about it, but I would say that it's not, we are moving away from that historic idea of it, and that is sort of a trope of Cambridge that is a historic one that we need to move away from. But I also understand that some people will have an experience that's different to that. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's quite really interesting. So there's two things that you pointed out that stuck to mind. Is one that, so I guess one thing you were saying is that the previous history of Cambridge is not what it is today.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that there's a nationwide social mobility issue that is like has institutional causes that have nothing to do with whether a student should feel like they fit into Cambridge or not.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, that's not to say that we don't have responsibility, but that's to say that we're going to do as much as we can within what we can do to support students from every single background. I think, I really don't want to deny the history of a place, but we are moving on from that context. And it comes down to sort of different layers because, you know, on the one hand, it's how many people apply, and then how many people get offers, and then how many people accept those offers. And I think we're seeing application rates improve quite significantly in a way that sort of means, you know, the percentage applying is roughly the percentage of students at that age in the UK. But then the number of who are getting offers can sometimes be lower for certain groups, and then the number accepting those offers can be lower. So I think some of the work that needs to be done comes in that kind of offer and people who accept their offer territory now. Because I think, the number of people applying is getting up, and that's really exciting to see when you look at it over time, that it's really improving.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, you can have access to the admission statistics online, and I think, like, from the top of my head, I'm pretty sure this is accurate. Like in the year 2000, it was like 50% state school to private, 50-50, and now it's like 78 to 22 state to private. And so, like, those stats alone shows that things have changed. And I think on the ground as a student, I mean, Marcus talks about how the demographic has changed compared to when he was a student in, I believe it was the 90s, compared to what the demographic is like. Now. It's interesting you were talking about the different groups and their like academic attainment and that differing, which was shown up in the recent Cambridge APP, which we will do a podcast at a later date. Is basically a very long report on the university's outreach goals and their progress so far. That's summing up like 100-page document in a very crude way. But I think it does, those kind of like statistics do reveal wider like issues that are behind the scenes that are causing these statistics. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is that don't let these kind of like wider external factors discourage you to apply to Cambridge.
Yeah, and I think that part of like the benefit of You'll Fit In as a programme is, I hope that because people who are applying to the programme generally are interested in Cambridge already, I hope that what this programme will do for them is like give them that little booster if they need it, to make sure that application becomes an offer. Because I think sometimes there can be gaps where people just need an extra, like, even if it's confidence, sometimes it's not something super practical, it's just sort of feeling like, of course I can get an offer, because some people from maybe, like you said, a white middle class background might have that confidence already internalized into them through the people who've been in their network. And I think that, when you talk to students, you can kind of see that some people have that. Yeah. And so that's the confidence we'd like to inspire into people to say, even if you've never met someone from Cambridge, or you've never sort of had a person in your life be that underlying driving force who kind of tells you, obviously you can do this, that you can do it.
Yeah, which is literally what we're trying to do. We're trying to be like you, to encourage people who might have not had that encouragement from their world, from their worlds, from their homes, wherever. We're trying to tell them that if that person next to you can do it, you can also as well. Yeah, I mean, just like last point, like I think the statistics show that like British, Bangladeshi, and Pakistani groups are underrepresented at Oxford and Cambridge, and that they're less likely to do well in like the finals exams as well. Like so that on one hand that statistic exists, but then like I studied at Oxford and I'm British Bangladeshi, so my friend, he's British Pakistani, and he graduated with a first from maths. So those two truths exist. Do you see what I mean? Like so in one hand, and there's no reason to believe that you necessarily belong in one or the other. Like I guess what I'm trying to say is that just because like the statistics says one thing and the history in the past say one thing, there's absolutely no reason why you can't like firstly apply to Cambridge and then like do the degree that you want to, and like do the way that you want to do it. Just because like people in the past haven't done it doesn't mean that you can't.
Yeah, and I think that that's the value of having the qualitative conversation with a student ambassador. Because as well, I think I've said a lot about how the statistics show there is improvement. I think the better case for the fact there's improvement is actually if you listen to a student ambassador talk about their experience. And when they talk to us, I think it's just their experience will always, in my mind, override whether or not something's gone up by 0.2%, because statistically that's not necessarily massively significant. Whereas meeting 100 people who say it was obviously in the total cohort it's more than this, but I'm imagining if we met 100 students and they tell you about their experience, that's so much more important than just the number on its own.
And it's inspiring. Stats might say one thing, but when you actually meet like real human individuals who are a few years older than you, kind of where you want to be, and they look at you and be like, well, there's no if I can do it, why can't you? We're both graduates, and I guess we're trying to, like, with this program, encourage other people who have the potential and the capability to, they've got 5 university options. You can apply to 5 universities. One of them be Cambridge.